I'm going to introduce Katie. If you guys haven't met Katie yet, she is our legal expertise, our closing attorney. Anytime you have questions, you need a special step, you have a question about a certain situation, Katie is there for us. But these calls, we like to talk about these issues so that we all can get more educated on the current trends. Katie, you're up.
We'll start with the Zillow pre-auction listings. So my only guess is that somewhere in the language in the security deed or something, there's something in there that says non-payment allows the bank to do X, Y, and Z. So that would be my guess. I don't know that for sure, but it's so very public with Zillow that there's got to be something that they're hanging their hat on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily know what. We'd have to do some more research, which we can, to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, I think it's a topic that we need to dig in because I think there's a lot of misinformation. Like Courtney just put in there that Manny said that this person had signed the listing agreement. I'll tell you point blank, my client didn't sign the listing agreement and they're out there advertising it. So
speak to an actual foreclosure attorney who's probably going to know this stuff. I know a lot about it from dealing with them with our closings, kind of the pre-foreclosure pieces. But this is a good example of why real estate in particular, there's just so much and it's so very highly specialized. Because I honestly don't know. But my assumption is that the minute you're delinquent, that something happens with that at that moment in time that triggers the banks to be allowed to do this. And it's especially important in places like California and other states, I imagine, that their foreclosure timeline is so far out, right? I mean, Georgia, pre-COVID, our non-payment to foreclosure was on average a little less. It was like 11 months.
Wow.
And so now, I mean, it may be faster just because they don't have any kind of backlog. You know what I mean? But Colette's right. 90 days of non-payment. You have to have 60 days. So 2 consecutive months of non-payment. And at that point too, the bank can refuse to take payment unless you're paying it in full. They don't have to take a partial payment. But so 60 days, so 2 months of non-payment or not complete payment. And then they have to start advertising. Now they can, do it sooner perhaps. So 90 days is as quick as it could happen. But even though that's what they say, the actual average was something like 11 months. So from like the last time you paid to when it actually gets foreclosed is 11 months. So that's something to think about when you're talking to your clients. They've probably had more months of late payments and delinquents, and the bank may or may not have accepted late payments for so many times, and then these partial payments are coming through.
And also, when you talk about if you do run into a problem, ever since 2008, I think banks are much more open to deferment and reworking the loan. But when they do that, they add additional language there too. If you miss that.
Yeah. Well, the rule of thumb for you guys as realtors is you hear a client has worked with the bank and been involved in any kind of deferment. Unless their finances have drastically turned around, they're going to face some sort of penalty. And it's not 30 years from now. It's usually pretty quick. They give you a break, but then it's quick. And so usually those deferments still end in a quick sale. I mean, those people are going to be distressed properties at some point because it's very hard for people that are in that kind of financial trouble to have a chunk of change show up on their lap 6 months later. Do you know what I mean? And so deferment isn't always going to be, it's a temporary fix. But it's very hard sometimes to see. So a lot of people that do end up, they end up needing to sell their house is my point.